Good evening. It is September 26, 2023 at 7:31 p.m. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Norwalk Common Council. If you'll all rise and join me in pledging allegiance to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Burnett,
Present.
Mr. Camacho,
Present.
Mr. Goldstein. Here. Ms. Najolski Eichner,
Present.
Ms. Smith. Here. Ms. Ayers. Present. Mr. Uvelman. Ms. Revoluz.
Here.
Ms. Young. Here. Mr. Kaides. Ms. McMurr. Ms. Alterman. Mr. Meek.
Here.
Ms. Shanahan. Here. Mr. Freyer.
Here.
Mr. Uvelman. Mr. Kaides. Ms. McMurr. Ms. Alterman. We have 11. We have a quorum.
I thought I had 12.
Let
You
me
just
count
check that?
again. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have Uvelman, Revoluz. You are. So we, oh, Revoluz is here. You are absolutely correct. We have 12.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 12th, 2023. Do I have a motion? Ms.
Motion.
Shanahan moves. Any corrections, deletions, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as submitted? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Public participation. Do we have anybody in the audience that wishes to address the council? Or do we have anybody online?
We do not have anyone in the audience. If anyone remotely would like to address the council, please raise your hand electronically now. Please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments under 3 minutes if possible. Thank you. The first person we have is Tanner Thompson. Tanner, if you unmute.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, thank you, Common Council and Mayor. My name's Tanner Thompson. I live at 16 Hillside Place, and I'm the chair of the Bike Walk Commission. I'm here to comment on the proposed appointment of Manuel or Manny Salgado to the Bike Walk Commission. Just want to say a couple words about Manny. He's been attending our Bike Walk meetings for several months now and has proven to be both insightful and very civically minded. I would be thrilled to have Manny join the Bike Walk Commission. I'm sure you can see his resume there, but he works as a social worker. He also has experience living in other parts of the country where they have other biking and walking infrastructure that we can learn from, both in Texas and in California. And above all, Manny's just a great guy, and I would love to work with him. So I hope to see him confirmed tonight. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Anybody else, Mr. Manzi?
Yes, we have a few more. Next is Rich Bonifant.
Okay. Mr. Bonifant?
Yes,
You have the floor. We might have lost Mr. Bonifant.
okay, can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, sorry, there was a couple extra buttons there that I didn't see before. My comment is on Richard Bonifant, 17 Park Hill Avenue, sorry. On item 7B1 about the Parks Master Plan. All right, my comment is that, before you go congratulating yourselves about the job that you spent a lot of time on and spending money is one thing, but the plan is not complete until you figure out a way to enforce the rules. In particular, I'm kind of talking about dogs in the parks, and I see it all over, and I wouldn't have noticed it so much, but I got little grandkids, and we like to go in that Devon's Place in the back there by Stepping Stones, and I see dogs all over Matthews Park all the time. Nobody's picking up. And just to give you a little anecdotal story, I listened in on the YMCA planning and zoning hearing there. And one of the questions that came up is like, we're 200 apartments, where the dogs gonna go? And the attorney said, we're not required and we don't care. And they can go on the River Valley Trail or they can go in Matthews Park. I said, and so when it was my turn to speak in the public, I said, dogs aren't allowed in the park. All right. So when she rebutted, she said that dogs could go in the park and that Waypoint actually tried to have a dog walking area, but nobody picked up after themselves. So they told everybody in Waypoint to just use Matthews Park. Well, so that's just an example. And I see dogs in many of the parks. So, I got little grandkids, and I'm sure that other people, if you're not picking up after yourself or you're not obeying the rules, all the money you're spending on improving things. And if you can't enforce what you have, then, you're missing part of the equation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonifant. Any further comments from the public?
Yes, next we have Donna. If you could unmute. And accept the invitation as a panelist. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you. This is Donna Smirniotopoulos, 18 Shorefront Park. I am commenting about an item on the agenda under item 7, committees, 7A, authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with Langen for an amount not to exceed $103,250 for design and construction administration services for Meadow Street Park. This seems to be the park that is associated with Meadow Gardens. And I took a look at the Norwalk Housing Authority site yesterday. Meadow Gardens is a 54-unit public housing development built in 1960 that is the subject of a Section 18 demolition disposition application submitted to HUD in early 2023. Norwalk Housing Authority plans to redevelop the site of Meadow Gardens with the new construction of affordable housing units. So my comments to the council are, I'm wondering why, as the Housing Authority is preparing to redevelop the site with the help of money from Housing and Urban Development, why the city would be entering into a contract for design and construction of the park that appears to be affiliated with Meadow Gardens. I would like the council to consider this as a separate item because from my perspective as just an ordinary citizen looking at this, I'm wondering why taxpayers would be spending money on design for a development for a park associated with a development that's going to be demolished. And I'm also wondering where those people are going to go, because if it's anything like what happened at Soundview Landing, where people were displaced from Washington Village, I hope that doesn't happen again. And I hope that there is an appropriate plan in place for the current residents of Meadow Gardens. Thank you for your time and have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Smirniotopoulos. You as well.
Okay, we have one dialed in, phone number ending in 537, if you can unmute. Hit star
Yes,
6.
good evening.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
We can.
All right, good evening. My name is Diane Lauricella. Tonight I'm calling in. I don't have access to Zoom. I I was going to mention the item that Ms. Smirniotopoulos just mentioned as far as the Meadow Street area. If this is located in the same area as Meadow Gardens, I ask that this item be placed on hold or sent back to committee because in my discussion with Adam from Newark Housing Authority, indeed, and rightly so, this particular housing area will be demolished and redesigned in the future, not immediately. So I think our money would be better spent on other needed areas. So this item should be pulled, in my opinion, or at the very least put on hold until such time that is set. I wanted to focus my conversation, though, on item 7B1 and some other items after that in Recreation and Parks. Because I did appear and spoke at the actual council committee meeting for Recreation, Parks, and Cultural Affairs, I just wanted to state that I am very pleased that we did do a master plan and a strategic plan. However, sometimes the devil is in the details, and I am not assured that the issue that was raised by myself and several of the council members related to artificial turf fields, I want to make sure that that phrase is removed from the plans in the way in the back in the area where the charts are for the future plans. That was a kind of a uncalled for kind of sneaky way to try to just put this in as policy in the city, and we are far from needing and wanting artificial turf fields in all of our future playing fields. I also wanted to ask that Kimley and Horn use a different format in when this is finalized, because the format being used currently is very hard for both the public and I would imagine the council to read because of the format they're using to turn the page. You have to do a lot of clicking and moving to read the full page so that you can see it largely enough. So I ask again that our well-paid consultant change the format for this report. I asked it at the committee meeting. And lastly, that we make sure we have an independent review for natural turf fields versus artificial turf fields and all of the hazards that have been noted scientifically throughout the world. Number 6, I wanted to also suggest that we greatly reduce I think it's $100,000 that is being apportioned to a holiday extravaganza. While I am very happy that we are planning something for the holidays, I think that amount is far in exceedance, especially for the roughly 200 people that are expected to even attend.
You're
I
at
think
3
all of
minutes.
us do belt. Thank you. I'll wrap up. All of us are belt tightening. I think that this has to go back to committee and go back to the Sabrina and others that are planning it. It is far in exceedance of what we can afford. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. La Rochella. Mr. Manzi, do we have anybody else?
We do not. If anyone else would like to speak, though, raise your hand electronically now.
Okay, that will close public session. Next item on the agenda is the appointment of Manuel Salgado for the Bike Walk Commission. Do I have a motion? Ms. Ayers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to take the opportunity to highlight this name that has been brought forward for the Bike Walk Commission. As was stated by one of the participants in public participation, Tanner Thompson, Mr. Sally Manthi is a member of our community. He has a background in outreach as well as community advocacy. He seems to be an extraordinary citizen, someone who wants to get involved, someone who has found their niche. And these are the type of people that we always want to participate in our different commissions. I think it's also special that people who already sit on the commission are eager to work with someone. So it seems like he would be a great fit, and I would like to thank him for his ability to serve.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Further comment or discussion? Mr. Meek.
Thank you. Is the appointee here? If I could ask a question.
Don't believe he is.
Okay. The comment is he's lived here a year, according to the resume. That's great. I hope he's explored many assets of the city and figured out where we need improvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meek. Further comment or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the appointment?
Is he here? He's here.
I'm sorry,
He's here. He's on.
where?
Zoom.
I don't see.
Mr. Salgado is saying
If-
that he's here.
If a council person is on Zoom and they wish to speak, raising your hand electronically will help. That puts you to the front. Who's looking?
The
He needs to
appointee.
be pulled into as a panelist.
I'm missing.
Manuel is on.
Oh, Manuel is
Yeah.
on. Okay, thank you. Mr. Meek, if you want to ask the appointee a question, he is on the Zoom meeting.
Thank you. Just first, thanks for stepping forward. We always need interested people volunteering. I see you're kind of new to Norwalk, live down in East Norwalk. I hope you've had opportunity to explore some of the outreaches like up at Cranberry Park, where we are sorely needing safer bike access to the park, which is one of our some of our bicyclists' favorite destinations. And I hope you can look at that and wish you well on your appointment.
Thank you very much. I'm excited about this opportunity. I thank you all for just the opportunity to apply for this, and also to Tanner for just submitting my name. Yeah, if you have any other questions, I'd be free to answer them the best of my ability.
Thank you. Any further comment or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the appointment, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Salgado, for your willingness to serve.
Absolutely.
Okay, next item on the agenda, just the mayor's remarks. As you know, we recently, our Jewish community celebrated Rosh Hashanah and also the most sacred day of the year, Yom Kippur. And we wish them well in their Day of Atonement. Also, this month of September 15th through October 15th is Hispanic Heritage Month. We had a wonderful program at the library this past week. We have another one coming up this Saturday at 2 p.m. to host another Hispanic Heritage Month with singing and dancing, and in partnership with the Norwalk Nagarote Sister City Project. We celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month because it goes back. It was chosen during this time frame to coincide with the Independence Day celebrations of many Latin American nations, including Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. They declared their independence from Spain on September 15th. We also announced, and in partnership with Mothers for Others, National Diaper Need Awareness Week. We have a box downstairs in the lobby that people can donate diapers for people who might not be able to afford them. This is something that's critically important to the health of young children. And there are many people in this city, mothers, single moms, families that may not be able to afford diapers. And it's very unhealthy if they have to keep the child in a diaper for an extended period of time. So dig deep in your pocket, fill up that box, and bring some relief to some of the people that might be struggling. We also announced, thank you to our DEI officer, Latoya Fernandez, we announced a parking spot for expectant mothers right outside the police, right outside City Hall. Right next to the superintendent's parking space. It's on the honor system, obviously, but we want to provide access to City Hall for those moms who may be expecting and may find it a little bit difficult to get inside the building. If you're interested, this Thursday, we have a Complete Streets workshop to be held in the community room from 5:30 to 8 p.m. It's an approach in designing streets that enable safe access for all users, including pedestrians, bicyclists, motorcycles, transit riders, and all ages and abilities. We want to hear what the community has to say relative to how we can make our streets safer. On Tuesday, October 3rd at 5:30 p.m. at City of Norwalk is going to, in partnership with Norwalk Public Schools and local and state organizations, invites the residents of our community cannabis to our community cannabis forum in the community room. It aims to provide residents with an informative discussion about the upcoming cannabis retail dispensaries opening up in Norwalk later this year and next year, and how the city, Norwalk Public Schools, and local and state partners will be working together to promote responsible cannabis use and putting the health and well-being of our community first. Panelists will discuss safe and responsible cannabis use, educating our youth about the risks of cannabis, community efforts to promote safe handling, etc. Also, on October 21st from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going to have the Public Works Open House. We'll have the Touch-a-Truck at the Public Works Center. They invite the community to come explore our fire, police, and public works vehicles, meet members from each department. It's a family-friendly, hands-on experience. We'll include demonstrations, fun giveaways, wastewater treatment plant tours, Halloween safety tips. We also invite the community to consider coming dressed in your Halloween costume. Mr. Burnett, I now turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only comment that I'd like to make is to announce and remind the public that on Wednesday, October 18th, we'll be holding a joint meeting of the Finance Committee of the Board of Education and the Finance and Claims Committee of the Common Council. This will be a public meeting at the Center for Global Studies, and this is the first of several public meetings specifically to hear from the public as it relates to the upcoming budget cycle. We want to have the public's input. We've included additional public meetings in the charter revision. So October 18th, please mark your calendars at 7:00 p.m. at the Center for Global Studies. And again, we really want the public to come out and share their thoughts as it relates to the upcoming budget cycle. With that, we'll move to the consent calendar, which will be read by Councilmember Jim Freya.
Okay, on the consent calendar this week, we have Economic Community and Development Committee. Authorize Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute all forwarding documentation required by HUD to submit the PY48 CAPER. B, Recreation Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee. Number 2, authorize Mayor Harry W. Rilling to enter into an agreement with Wolf Pit Elementary and immediate surrounding grounds by the Wolf Pit PTA for their Pumpkin Fest event on Saturday, October 14th, 2023 from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Setup time is 6 a.m. with tear down at 6 p.m. The rain date is Sunday, October 15th, 2020, approximately 300 plus people. Number 5, authorize Mayor Harry W. Rilling to enter into an agreement with the Blue and Yellow Ukraine for the use of Calf Pasture Beach and immediate surrounding grounds for their Veterans Day 5K event to be held Sunday, October 29th, 2023 from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Setup time is 6 a.m. with tear down at 11 a.m. Rain date Sunday, November 5th, 2023, approximately 200 people. Number 6, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter an agreement with the City of Norwalk for the use of 50 Washington Street and immediate surrounding grounds for their holiday extravaganza event to be held on Saturday, November 25th, 2023 from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Set up from 8 a.m. with tear down at 10 p.m. with approximately 200 people. Number 9 is resolved that the City of Norwalk may enter
Excuse me, that's on
No, no, no,
consent.
number 9.
Number 8.
I'm sorry. That's right. Number 8, authorize Mayor Harry W. Rilling to enter into a 5-year rental agreement with Eric Montgomery for the caretaker appointment located at the rear of the Fodor Homestead at 328 Flax Hill Road, Norwalk. Number 9, resolved that the city of Norwalk, Connecticut may enter into and deliver with the state of Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection any and all documents which it deems to be necessary or appropriate for the grant of $1 million for the city of Norwalk Department of Recreation and Parks. And be it further resolved that Harry W. Rilling, as mayor of the city of Norwalk, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the city of Norwalk to do and perform all acts and things which he deems to be necessary or the appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents. Is 1B under
It's a claim. See.
oh, yeah, I'm sorry, finance claim. Finance claims, number 1, report of the Claims Committee dated September 2023. Number 2, for informational purposes only, narrative on tax collections dated September 2023. Number 3, for informational purposes only, monthly tax collectors report dated August 2023. Number 4, request special capital appropriation in the amount of $10,727.32 to increase the authorization for account as noted, fire department vehicles. This capital appropriation shall be funded through $10,727.32 of authorized but unissued capital obligation bonds or notes of the city. The $10,772.32 of bonds or notes of the city shall be issued in accordance with the provisions and terms set forth in the original bond resolutions that authorize the issuance of the bonds or notes of the city for the project account numbers as so noted. Number 5, requesting the deauthorization in the amount of $10,727.32.
Excuse me.
Correction,
Read it as noted, $7,032.
$10,732.32,
Thank you.
which is a typographical error and should be
No,
10,000.
excuse me, Jim, there was a note that was sent. Please just read it as printed, please, okay? Thank you.
from the available balance in account as noted. Fire Department mobile radio upgrade. Number 6, authorize Mayor Harry W. Rilling to enter into the agreement with Andres Technology UKG for a time and attendance system migration project not to exceed $225,025, capital budget account as noted. Accounts as noted. Public Safety and General Committee. Authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute any and all documents and agreements necessary to apply for and accept grant funding under the fiscal year 2023 Justice Assistant Grant. Number 2, authorize the Police Chief, James Walsh, to execute any and all documents and agreements as may be necessary to implement the fiscal year 2023 Project Justice Grant, Assistance Grant. Community Services Committee. Number 1A, authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept public health, workforce development, and infrastructure grant funds from the Connecticut Department of Public Health in the amount of $300,385 for the period October 1st, 2023 through November 30th, 2027. Number 1B, authorize Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, or amendments as may be necessary to implement the public health workforce development and infrastructure grant activities for the period October 1st, 2023 through November 30th, 2027.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. That completes the reading of the consent calendar. I'll call for the question. All those in favor, show by a sign of aye, raising your hand. All those opposed have the same right. Any abstentions? Motion passed. The consent calendar is approved. Over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Please note that Councilman David Hooverman joined the meeting at 7:52 p.m. And now we go to item 7B1. Ms. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Acceptance and approval of the 2023 Recreation and Parks 10-year master plan and strategic plan developed in concert with Kimberly Horn Consultants. And I think we have Mr. Stowers here to speak to that. And we also have a presentation as well in this.
Good evening, everyone. Vanessa Valadares, Chief of Operations and Public Works. I'm here with Mr. Stowers, Director of Recreation and Parks. And the reason that we're before the council tonight is to request adoption of a 10-year master plan for Recs and Parks. The last master plan that was done for Recs and Parks was in 1996. So in 2021, the city issued an RFQ and we were able to engage Kimberly Horn as a consultant. Mr. Stowers joined us right after that, and he was able to oversee the whole process. What I would like to do is to first thank you, the mayor, the council members, the rec and staff, all the residents, and the previous and the current chief of staff, because without your input, we wouldn't be able to get to the point that we are. So now I would like just to turn it over to Mr. Stowers and to Nick Hum from Kimberly and Horn so they can give you more information about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. And good evening, council members and Mr. Mayor, good evening, and citizens of Norwalk. You know, very excited about this master plan. And very excited about, even more excited about implementing it with the help of the public. And we have a lot of interest groups out there, and we want to implement it along with their advice and with their input. You know, the purpose of the Recreation and Parks Master Plan is really to create a well-designed, functional, and sustainable park and recreation facilities that meet the needs of residents and visitors. This type of planning aims to balance the demands of healthy lifestyles, environmental protection, social equity, and cultural preservation. And this is what opens up our master plan in terms of the spirit of it. As you know, as you may know, we went through a very extensive process, a 1.5 year process, which initiated me actually to this city. We had several community meetings. It started off actually with the consultant coming to town and observing all our parks and also touring all our parks and then doing intercepts with visitors in the park. Shortly after that, we did a process of determining, I believe it was 8 to 10 focus groups that concentrated on various categories of recreation and also conservation and resiliency. After that, we did also online surveys. We did a ballot empirical study of our residents and what they needed and what they demand of our recreation department. Combined with those 2 elements and the focus groups, we're able to come up with some very demanding needs that the public wanted to see in future parks and recreation programs. Following that, we've done several community workshops and also including with stakeholders and city staff. And we were able to, with the consultant, to develop a draft plan out of that after 1.5 years. So we had our final community meeting a few months ago. We put the draft back online. The draft has been online for a couple of months now. And our last presentation was before the Rec and Parks Committee. And I think they felt it was a good presentation. It was very thorough. And Nick Kuhn now is, hope he's on the line. I'm not looking at the thing, but he's on the line and he's going to give us a very brief, I told him no longer than 10 minutes, briefing to the council. And he's going to address, also hopefully addresses where we made the changes in terms of the any reference to synthetic turf. So I'm gonna let Nick take it away, and then I'll be back to answer some questions on some of the other items. Thank you.
Is Mr.
Is there somebody on Zoom waiting to?
He's sharing the screen.
Mr. Coons?
to hear him.
Is it Nick Kuhn? He's
Yeah, he's
currently,
on. He's there.
he's
He needs
currently muted.
He needs to. He looks frozen. It's frozen. He's frozen. No, I just saw his face. Yes, I.
There he is.
Okay, you're muted right now. There we are. What?
Yeah, he's going back and forth. Got his hand up.
There you go. What?
Need help? Nick, can you hear us? You're on mute as far as we can see. You can't change it.
Can the administrator unmute him?
Nick, go down to the bottom left and click that little caret arrow next to the microphone and change your microphone. Where it says mute on the bottom of your screen. Instead of clicking unmute or mute, click the little arrow next to it. It should give you an option for one or more microphones.
Oh, all right. Thank you. It was automatically muting me constantly here. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
We can.
Yep. All right. I appreciate it very much. I'll speed this along here very quickly. As Robert indicated, we began this process. There's 4 key steps here to the development of the master plan. And so we had a great opportunity over almost the last 2 years as we move through these to really collect information, identify the community's needs and priorities, create a long range vision, as well as then a roadmap for the future, the real implementation plan. And that's what I'll focus a few of the slides here this evening. So our overall timeline here, again, we had multiple check-ins with the community. We really, the foundation of this master plan comes through the public engagement process. This is really something, a process that we facilitated. And so all the ideas, all the recommendations.
Excuse me, Nick, you need to share your screen again. I stopped your screen share earlier.
Okay. There we go.
There we go.
All right. And as we move through the timeline here, you'll see again a number of milestones throughout the project where we really engage the community in this process and check to make sure we were on track. We were hearing what the recommendations need to be to really reflect the needs and priorities of the community. Now, as I mentioned, public engagement was really the cornerstone here. You can just see a sampling of some of the engagement results here. We had over 850 hours of time contributed from the public into the development of this master plan. Reams and reams of information here, as well as great online participation, over 4,500 visits to the project website, and hundreds of responses through our statistical surveys, as well as our online surveys, and dozens of folks throughout the workshops for this project. Just a little sampling of that information and just how we were going through that was in this indication, the top 8 actions that residents would like or willing to support with their tax dollars. And this indicates a few things, not just the top 8 in ascending order here, but you'll start to see how we analyze this information for the different populations across the city. The top 2 really focus on maintaining what we have. That was an overarching theme throughout this process. But you'll see our younger population, those under 34, really we're focused on that connectivity issue and developing new trails, connecting existing trails. And then at the very bottom, you'll see number 8 was a top priority for households with children under 10. And so this is a great example to see how different populations, again, have different needs and different priorities. And that was factored throughout this process. Overall, we had a summary, and this indicates, this nice matrix summarizes months and months of work here to identify through the use of over a dozen different techniques, and those are listed on the top of this matrix, that we really sampled the public's needs for top facilities, as well as programs and activities shown on the bottom. And these are the top 10 for each in descending order. And you can see what ultimately bubbles to the top here. And it's a real focus on, again, walking paths, smaller neighborhood parks, natural areas, all the way down through restrooms and specific facilities. Programming wise, we are waterfront town. And so this is really something, again, comes strong through with water related activities such as swimming and fishing. Aquatics is another high desired, high need programming type or activity type, as well as nature enjoyment and our special events. Many of you saw on the agenda already tonight. Out of all that public engagement, we were really able to focus on developing a top 10 priority goals. And this list of goals really have some overarching themes that hit on in terms of quality of the parks, equity and access of parks, and identifying funding and making sure that what we have is an offering that we can maintain and that we have the ability to meet the needs, the diverse needs of the community in regards to programming and meeting our resiliency goals as well, and through partnerships with multiple agencies and partners throughout the community. As we dove into really focusing on those priority goals, we completed a funding and cost estimate. And so we really had an opportunity where we collected all the different ideas that the public really had in terms of capital projects. And what we were able to analyze is that we had a very thoughtful, very robust set of wishes from and desires from the community when it comes to capital projects for recreation and parks. In fact, over 140 million in projects in all. But through analyzing our funding trends over the next 10 years, we're able to essentially meet about 1/3 of that, or about 32% of that in terms of capital funding. And so we really have to sharpen the pencil to make sure that we understand the top needs and priorities of the community and really accomplish this in a realistic manner. And so we were able to identify 6 implementation strategies. And you'll see the 6 listed here and on the side here on the left. And these included phasing projects across, and these were tied towards highest needs and also timeframes needed for implementation. Additional sources of funding, such as a Parks Foundation that aligns with the mission of the department as well as an option. Grant stacking, really leveraging our matching funding. Also increasing cost recovery. We are very good with cost recovery when it comes to our recreation programs. However, we're limited because we need more space in order to really capture that. Complementary providers and partners, whether faith-based or private across the community. And then finally, project prioritization. And you'll see a criteria on the right that was developed with staff input in terms of how to rank all 120 capital projects that were identified in this process and really understand a way that we could leverage and meet the biggest return on investment for these projects that met this criteria. And this is really meant to be an overall guidance, not necessarily an ordering of how to do projects. And just for a sample of this, phasing the projects, this is the top 20 scoring projects in the short-term category. And really what you'll see here is the projects are all throughout the city. This is really something where it's not concentrated in certain neighborhoods. This is meant to really be projects that are, in some cases, low-hanging fruit, easy to accomplish, and some that are rather large, but have high needs across the city. The takeaway with the implementation is that we're able to really accomplish a lot when we apply those 6 different strategies to this. And so we're able to identify that almost 60% of the projects are longer term projects, vision ideas, and about 40% really focus on projects that we can accomplish in the next 10 years. Now, in terms of meeting some of the short-term projects, as you saw across in the map on the previous slide, we factored into not only the capital costs, but also the operations and maintenance and staffing needs as these projects are potentially rolled out over the next few years. All in, the application of those 6 different strategies could result in providing upwards of 120% or even more of the capital funding needs over the next 10 years. So really allowing for that flexibility for what the next 10 years will bring and a realistic approach to being able to implement the highest needs and priorities for recreation and parks across the city. The last item is our strategic plan, and this is really a roadmap for the future. This identified, again, those 10 visionary goals, but also 51 measurable objectives. And so each objective here really emphasizes meeting residents' needs and priorities, identifying and securing resources and staffing needs, as well as effective and efficient best practices. And you'll see across the report or throughout the report several examples of best practices and lessons learned that are very top related to needs and priorities across Norwalk as well. And then lastly, maintaining public investment in infrastructure. Last item is, as presented this summer draft report, we had a number of opportunities for additional input online and in person. And you'll see a couple summaries here and some snapshots of the community input for the draft master plan as presented over the summer. And we extended the window for that review from 30 days to over 10 weeks for the public to review. And what we heard was an emphasis for the youth sports, more dog parks and more aquatics were echoed throughout here. We also refined the report to remove mentions of synthetic turf and really allow for that flexibility and consideration for individual projects for what the appropriate surfaces really need to be at the time of those projects being designed. You'll see we had an in-person survey for participants as well through the draft presentation, and over 70% supported approval or adoption of the plan as presented, as well as 80% for the process equitably and comprehensively analyze the community's needs and priorities. So we are excited to report that we had a 7.3 out of 10 for the highest scores in terms of excitement for implementation. So we're very happy to be able to celebrate the completion with the community of this very important recreation and parks master plan. I'd like to open up to any questions, or I can go back to any slides if you'd like.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council? Mr. Burnett.
And yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And maybe this question is really directed to either Chief Darius or Mr. Sowers. By approving the plan that's before us, are we also committing the financial dollars as outlined, or what? How does that work? What's the mechanics behind what you've outlined in terms of capital estimated costs in this plan? So what exactly are we considering to approve tonight?
I think you're approving the plan, the direction, and the various ideas of financially how we can support this this plan. As Mr. Kuhn pointed out, there's several others kind of things we have to do. We're talking about a park foundation. So I think it gives us some ideas how we can raise some of the other funding, but there is some of the low-hanging fruit, which will be more easy to implement, will come through our capital budget. And that'll be our priority. The plan is really a guide in terms of, to stop the guessing about what people want. It doesn't come from our gut. It'll come from the plan. Our program budget needs, our programs, activities that we'll offer every year will come from this plan. Of course, there's always opportunity for new things to come into being, because new trends come in all the time, and we will consider those. But this is our primary structure to go forward in that direction. So when we be planning our budget, that will be our guiding document. And also what we have to consider is a lot of the projects that were suggested in some of the other master plans that didn't get completed are also incorporated into this master plan. So it's really a guide for us to go forward. There's some funding recommendations that will be a lot easier, projects that will be a lot easier to fund through capital. But there will be some larger things that we'll have to find the money for through foundation, through increasing opportunities for grants and things of that nature. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you. And as a follow-up question, this is a great document. I just want to mention that. How does this position us moving forward towards accreditation?
Well, it is a requirement for accreditation to have a master plan. So that check would be, that box will be checked. And it also gives the National Parks and Recreation Association a real idea that we're doing the work and that we have a vision, and innovation has always been a part of the Parks and Recreation industry. And I've even asked Vanessa to come to the National Parks and Recreation conference next. I think we go next month, because I want her to see the innovation and the ideas that come through that, and because she's our leader, so I want her to see that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Comments or discussion? Ms. Smith.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First, Mr. Sowers, I'd like to thank you so much for your leadership around this Master Parks Plan and the public engagement. Was just incredible. You did a really, really fine job there. Also, I can't not comment on the fact that I have spent a good amount of time in Seattle and have seen some of your vision. And so I think we really benefit, Norwalk will really benefit from that. So I'm really excited about it. I'd like to ask, based on some of the comments tonight, as well as, what I hear from constituents and being a dog lover myself, is there any Are you thinking about, what more dog parks? I know, we have to be careful about that. Enforcement is an issue. So I'd just like to hear you talk a little bit about, what you're thinking about for dog parks and enforcement of keeping our parks clean around dogs.
Yeah, what really initiates citizens really getting involved in this whole situation with dogs, because we have more people moving here. And a lot of people are moving here with dogs. And as we develop, our housing develops and more people come, they're going to bring dogs. In fact, I don't know if you may not heard, but and then some people get tired of me talking about Seattle. And there's some good parts about it, and there's some bad parts about it. We have a bad encampment issue there and problem. But Seattle has more dogs in Seattle than they have children. And so if it gets that bad here, we'll have to need an advocacy group that we can rely on to help us with identifying where dog parks should go, just giving us some recommendations. In fact, there's been a group that has come to me recently that has incorporated, and I think they're affiliated with Taylor Farms right now. And they just came to me recently. Haven't had a chance to talk to the mayor and Tom about it, but they have incorporated, and they want to advocate for dog owners and dog parks. And we need to formalize so it's not a piecemeal thing and people come to us all the time. So looking forward to working with that group and identifying more places for dog parks. I know with the development idea that has happened around the country, with development, when they build these nice condominiums and townhomes everywhere, a lot of towns are requiring in their zoning that they give money for a pocket park in that area. And that's happening around the country. And it's happening a lot in Seattle and San Francisco and LA, where you come to build something, you're going to give the money for schools, or you'll give the money for parks, because it goes into the whole assessment and their permits. So I'm hoping we can look at something like that, because dogs are coming and more dogs are coming. Yeah. It's a problem that is extensive, because you need enforcement, and then with enforcement comes tickets and court, and it can get away from you. So it's a whole system that has to be thought through really. It has to be thought through really well, because one thing leads to another.
Mr. Josie Actor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to add to my colleagues' thanks for this excellent plan and the time and energy and effort that went into it. And I want to particularly commend you for really focusing on the maintenance needs. I think that is so often an overlooked part of our capital planning. We get excited, it's something shiny and new, we build it. Then the question is, how do we maintain it and take care of it? So I'm very grateful to see a really thoughtful and explicit recommendation for what it's going to take to do that maintenance. And I know that this is going to be a question coming in the budget. And so I hope that we talk often about the importance of being, as I like to say, someone who spends and invests and to maintain, so that we don't have a larger cost when we have to replace in a shorter life cycle than we would otherwise. I think it's really worth doing as we make these and plan for these big investments. And I really also want to commend you for acknowledging that this is going to be a community-wide effort. We are going to have to look for philanthropy. We are going to have to look for people chipping in who can afford to do so that everyone in the city can participate. And I really hope that the city will come together around this plan and around the things that we've identified that we all really want. go aquatics, parents of young children. And so I look forward to working with you on that effort. And like I said, I really want to thank you for this being a very realistic, very thoughtful, and honest acknowledgement of how expensive and how complicated, and how much we are going to need to invest strategically and slowly over time to get us where we need to be.
Thank you. And you have to commend the public as well. We in the survey, you get to almost high 40s for maintaining what we have. And that's thoughtful for the public to think that way, because you think when you get new money, people want new things. And so for them to say, come up with, we got to maintain what we have, that's acknowledging that we have to maintain it as well. There's something that, that a lot of municipalities are doing in terms of maintenance. And when somebody brings a project forward, and I've done a lot of reading on this, and of course it's been incorporated in a lot of cities, that when you bring a project forward, you have to bring the project forward with new facility cost. And so every project, when the project comes, a lot of the finance people are saying, okay, where's your new facility cost incorporated in this? Because if you can't maintain it, you probably shouldn't build it. So.
Mr. Goldstein.
Hi.
Hi.
First of all, I'm going to say that I wholeheartedly agree with my colleagues. I mean, this is a visionary and really well thought out and a document that should be appreciated for people for a very long time. I think it's obvious that as Norwalk is changing and growing and becoming, the absolute economic powerhouse in this area, we need parks, and parks are some of the best assets we have, and we have really incredible parks. And so this plan helps, show us the way of the future. And I think what Nora said about maintenance costs is absolutely right. I'm going to take this opportunity to ask you the turf question, because you said that there were some revisions that were discussed at the most recent Recs and Parks meeting. And I just want to give you an opportunity to talk about the discussion we had about synthetic turf being mentioned in the document, and there was a commitment of it being essentially removed based on issues raised by members of the council. So I just wanted to make sure you talked about it before.
Yeah, I understand that it has been removed. I think there was a memo that came along with your draft plan. I think I sent the memo as well, and it indicated all the changes that were made in the plan. So I hope you guys received that memo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Further comments or discussion?
I have one comment.
Ms. Shanahan.
Thank you very much. Mr. Stowers and Kimberly Horn, Nick, I just wanted to compliment you on your process. I think I attended every single meeting, but for one, I got there late. It was the late meeting. But you did an amazing process of bringing us together and really culling the best comments out of all of us just through the topic. So I just especially wanted you to know, Nick, too, that the work that you did with Mr. Stowers was really terrific. I felt it was really evocative of getting the best out of all of us. So I appreciate that. And also just even on the turf comment and the comment that Nora made about pools, I thought you were very responsive. These were things that bubbled up really from the people. And you might have had one idea, Nick, maybe about turf fields, but you responded. And I really, really appreciate that. And I think it is reflected in this very good plan. Thank you.
Further comment or discussion? Mr. Freyer.
I just wanted to make one comment because I wasn't here at the very beginning of this, but I really admire the structure of the plan. And I'm looking at it from a financial standpoint. It now is very clear. You've got a roadmap. You've given us some estimates, guesses on what costs are going to be. And I think going forward, it's just a great tool to have as we try to build a budget that's going to be affordable. And we know there's going to be a lot of pressures on our budget in the future. And now we have a roadmap to follow, and we can anticipate what it's going to cost in different places. So thank you very much for a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Goldstein.
Sorry, I don't mean to go twice, but I just wanted to also acknowledge that while we're talking about a plan and this being sort of the beginning of moving forward, it's not like you guys haven't been working and doing incredible work on already revitalizing key parts of our parks. I mean, everything from major improvements to Catastrophe Beach, Oyster Shell Park, Cranberry. I mean, there's already been a lot of work that's done. this plan is obviously a document about the future. But I just want to acknowledge the present and how much work has already been done up until now, and that we are not starting at zero here.
Yeah.
Any further comment or discussion? Ms. Young?
I have to say something as the chair. So, Robert, I think you've been here 2 years, 3 years?
A year and a half.
A year and a half. And this is impressive. And all I can really say to the administration, we picked the best person for this job. When, you know, as chair as the committee, I think Recreation and Parks was, I don't want to say flying by the seat of their pants, but it was sort of reactionary, right? The kinds of things that we did and what we responded to. And we did the best that we could with the resources and the manpower and the money that we have. But I think we're at a point where Recreation and Parks needs to move to a higher level of standard and what we offer to the community. And as Mr. Goldstein said, our parks are what makes our place beautiful, and where people can recreate and feel safe is very important, and what drives people to Norwalk and to any community. So I'm really, really excited about the next step. And this part will definitely be crucial to our accreditation. And that's where Norwalk really needs to be. But again, the rub is going to be, how do we fund all of this?
Yeah.
We can grow, but if we can't maintain, how do we manage those expectations? And lastly, I can distinctly recall Council Member Ayers saying swimming. Swimming, because we all know that's what we want to provide. We're a coastal community, and so we should all know how to swim. I don't, but we should all know how to swim. But I'm glad to see that it is in the plan. And for me, I think this is our POCD of Recreation and Parks. And so this is going to drive us, and the thing that we need to look to move forward. And I'm very happy to hear that some of the comments that were made were addressed. Because it shows that you're listening. And I have to say to Mr. Horn and his consultant, his team did a yeoman's job. Excellent at dealing with the community and understanding and hearing what people said and taking that information and giving it back to us in a way that we could understand and that made sense. And that was true to what people really wanted to see happen in the city of Norwalk. So kudos, Mayor, to you and staff who brought Mr. Stowers here. He can't leave yet because I keep telling him that. If he's got any designs on that. And I like to see that. I see Ms. Valadero standing there behind you, that Recreation and Parks and DPW is a partnership.
Yeah.
Right? Because we all got to work together with this.
And I want to thank Nick. It's good. I mean, you guys picked the best consultant even before I came here, because he has so much experience in recreation and parks studies. So you picked the right consultant as well. And it wasn't me who picked that consultant. So it was the mayor and his staff before I got here. They picked the right consultant. And I just want to say, working with Vanessa as a partner, and her knowledge about infrastructure, and it's really going to help parks and recreation. I think we work real well.
I just have one comment, and it's more to address Mr. Burnett first question. As you guys know, I love a plan. I love to follow the book. That's the engineering part of Vanessa. So I think that if you guys approve the master plan, it will really give us the tools, as Ms. Young said, to bring us to the other level. This is what gives us the direction or where we should be spending our money. Also, we'll make sure that we'll have to find ways to fund it, and we have to be more creative about it. Definitely maintenance is a key part of have all the parts working very well. And I think that with that, years from now, it will be a legacy that we're leaving for the others that will come after us on how we're gonna continue growing the Parks and Recreation program in Norwalk. So I really appreciate your time. Again, I want to thank you, Mr. Stowers. He did a fantastic job, as Nick, and all of you that actually support through this last year and a half and came back and went to the workshops and gave your input, and particularly the residents, because the reason, we work very hard to please them, right? That's why we are here. But we need to know what they want and where they want us to go so we can follow. So I'm glad that they came to us and you could see that the public outreach, the numbers that we got back was very good. So I think that this is a very good reflection on what we have here in Norwalk. Thank you so much.
Ms. Revelous?
Thank you. I have a real, quick question. This is all really great. It's just more trying to see how finite it goes to maintaining like what we already have and attending to our parks. And I think the dog issue is actually a greater issue. And well, outside that being said, can I ask, is this, for example, an area like the Heritage Wall, does that fall under Parks and Recs? Is that considered a park?
Which one?
I believe it.
Heritage Wall?
Yes, it's a park.
Yeah. So that would be someplace like orchestrated that would help in like looking towards maintaining that area and then finding the discussion on who, for example, cleans that wall. Why I'm asking that is just because like if we're controlling all our parts, but these little areas that are really, I've actually been talking with our DEI officer about and showcasing this walkway through Norwalk, and this in particular place that could be showcasing, it's a missed opportunity of showcasing the history of Norwalk in many different scales and scapes and whatever's going on here for whatever nationality, whatever going on. So I'm just wondering if that falls under this purview of maintaining it, because there's a conversation about then the state getting involved and how that looks like and who maintains it. It's not to be just dissecting just this one thing. It's just seeing how we're holding to preserving and maintaining what we already have. That's why I'm asking, not to be a pain.
Yeah, I think the area, there's some state property as well. But I've always worked really well with the state. So it's just a matter of collaborating with the state and also getting some ideas and input from your group, Ms. Revelous, or you. And yeah, I think we can work together to make that a better area.
I appreciate that. As and everything, like I said, it's great. We appreciate you here in Norwalk and facilitating the plans that you have, but just definitely looking at how we can celebrate especially what we already have here and kind of figuring out these little like nooks and crannies that are just really like diamonds in the rough that we have that just really need to be shined up a bit and a little bit forgotten about. So that's it. That's all. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any further comment or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Mr. Meek, you're opposed?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, let's clean up the dog poop.
Abstentions. Okay, so 1 opposed and 11 in favor, 12 in favor, because we have Mr. Hooverman now. Right? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, Ms. Young, item 7B3.
In B3, authorize Mayor Harry W. Rilling to enter into an agreement with the city of Norwalk for the use of 50 Washington Street and immediate surrounding grounds for their night fair on Washington Street event to be held on Saturday, October 28th from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Setup time at 8 a.m. would tear down by 11 p.m. Approximately 100 people.
Ms. Young moves the item and you would like to discuss it?
Mr. Stowers.
I think Sabrina should be on.
Yeah.
Sabrina should be. This is that there's 3 items on here that are really programs for the Department of Economic Development in their new quest to have citywide events.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
She's there. Yeah. Yes.
Can you all hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm here for, as Robert mentioned, those 3 events, which are really technically one event with a second day and a third event, which is what we all know and love as the holiday extravaganza that we held last year. But I'll talk about the two Halloween ones really quickly. So the first night is from 5 to 10 p.m. as Darlene mentioned in the action item. We'll have live entertainment. We'll have a kids corner that'll have a bouncy house, carnival games, all of that great stuff. We'll have eccentric vendors on Washington Street, as well as allowing for the restaurants to come more out in the street that night. And then we'll have food trucks and cotton candy, all that fun stuff, pumpkin painting, really having a really great Halloween event that we've never had in the past. So we're really excited to offer this. We're going to have some really great entertainment available. Some well-known names that we will be able to announce actually tomorrow. So we're really excited about that. We're hoping to bring large crowds. We've been out to all of the businesses on Washington at this point in time, as well as on North and South Main. Everybody is uberly excited to have another event that's similar to the Arts Fest, as those are their best days of business. So we're hoping to get a ton of people down there to support our downtown businesses, but also to be able to use a great park that we don't program super often. So we're really excited to provide another larger event that's not just the holiday extravaganza. So the first night we'll have that live entertainment and everything that I mentioned, but on the second day, not that both nights aren't family friendly, because both are, but the second day, from 11 to 4 is more family friendly. We'll have a trick or treat trail with the businesses and some vendors. We'll have brunch offerings at all of our restaurants. We're coordinating a Halloween themed restaurant week, so all of our restaurants will be participating with specials and drinks and all of those great things as well. So we're excited to involve them in the process. We'll also have Halloween contests, a dog parade. We had a lot of requests for dog friendly events and activities, so we incorporated that a little bit as well. So we're really excited for those to occur this Halloween season. So we're hoping that you guys tell all of your constituents to come out and join us. It's going to be a really great time. And then I'll talk lastly just on the holiday extravaganza. It'll be the same format as last year. We're going to have a market. We'll have Santa rappelling. We'll have a lot of local organizations through the school systems come and perform for us, so that all of our, great organizations at the school level can come and participate, and we'll have amazing family activities as well. A lot of photo ops. Everybody will be able to see Santa and meet Santa, and we'll have a lot of walking acts as well. So we're really excited to be able to provide these opportunities for you guys, as it's kind of the first time we're able to do that. So thank you in advance. And I'll take any questions if you guys have any.
I do have a question, and I don't think we've mentioned it in committee. Are the streets going to be blocked off similar to the Sono Arts Festival? It'll be the same area?
It will not be as similar. So we're going to leave access to the portal open to local traffic. So we will not be programming Washington Street after the Pearl entrance. So those residents will still be able to gain access to their properties. On the opposite side, from the MLK to the 50 Washington Street side, we will have local traffic to the post office location on the Saturday morning before the event starts, and we'll close it after the fact so that people can still patronize the post office when it's active. But all the rest of the streets will be similar. So North Main and South Main will be closed in the same fashion as the Arts Festival, and then Washington Street up to the Pearl entrance. And then our stage will actually be located on Northwest Washington Street in front of 50 Washington Plaza. So we'll have those sections closed, obviously, but we have a little bit of a more tighter space than the Arts Festival has, just because we have less vendors. So we decided to keep access for the residents open as much as we could.
Mr. Meek?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I misheard it. I didn't realize this was taken off consent. This is Parks item 6. If I could have clarification on that.
It's item 3 and 4 right now.
And actually,
3 and 4.
3, 4, and 6.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further comment or discussion?
I just want to make a comment and say that, that I'm really excited that programming and activities are actually taking place in South Norwalk. It's been a long time overdue that we've had different events all over the city, and that something is now being done consistently in South Norwalk. And I hope that we continue to have those things go on, and they should go on all over the city, but we're really excited about what's happening. So kudos to you, Sabrina, and Robert, and everybody who had a hand in this. I hope this continues.
I know last year, and I look at the numbers here, last year, if we went to the 50 Washington Street Sono Extravaganza, there were hundreds of people there and they had an amazing time. Very, very cold, but they stuck it out and it was really, really an amazing time. I think Miss Revolus, did you have your hand? And then Miss Smith.
You know, I did, but I don't want to, I'm like my colleague just said, in love and being a business owner, an art business owner in South Norwalk, I'm really happy about this with our art festival that's happening. What I just didn't say prior, and I'm only just bringing up now, is, and I hate to even bring this up because this really isn't your, like, it really isn't your matter, but there's a synonymous, I forget how to say it, but like, let's say like a theory or logic or whatever of people and particular types of people who are deathly afraid of dogs, right? That being said, it's not going to be the amount or equal to the amount of the people who attended, because obviously that's the mass majority, but in particular, it's directly connected to a certain community as well. So then when we have a lot of situations that attend a lot of dogs, how do we take care or address people who are terrified to also be a part? Probably not even a concern. I didn't say it the last time, I was going to leave it there, but this is now an issue, right? And because we're always saying, hey, dog lovers, dogs can be a part, but what are we doing for children or people who are deathly afraid of these animals in these facilities? So, or in these festivals or in these events, because we want to make it available and fun and accessible to all, right? It's small and maybe like, I don't know, 5-10%, I don't know, maybe bigger, maybe even smaller than that, but how do we take care of this?
I can speak to that actually a little bit, which we thought about this aspect, especially since this event is family friendly and open to the public and free. That's why we specifically programmed a dog related event, specifically like a dog parade on the stage.
I get it.
So it's separated out, so that we have a little bit of control over that, rather than, you know, people are going to bring their dogs where they bring their dogs. We've set it for the farmers market and they do it anyways. We can only do so much, but that's why we specifically programmed an event on one of the days that will specifically have the dogs segregated to the stage area so that they're not specifically.
My apologies on not understanding that. I hear that, but I thought this was now an engaged thing throughout.
No, you're totally fine. You're totally right in bringing that up. But we did think about that. We had a lot of feedback that we want dog friendly events, and we love to, support what we love to support what everybody in the community wants. But that's part of the reasoning why we specifically program something that's for the dogs, so that it's not more like a, bring your dogs, everybody bring your dogs. It's more like just for the specific part of the event, bring your dog.
I appreciate you answering that. I apologize for not encompassing that properly. It's just that I'm realizing, like, how do we address this? So I thank you for even thinking about that on your team. And like I said, like my like my colleagues say before, extremely happy this is happening in South Norwalk, extremely happy as a business owner to see it. Just was questioning that. So thank you so much.
Ms. Smith?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So besides this event being a great event in South Norwalk and inclusive of South Norwalk, I do just want to say, here we are in our small city of Norwalk, and we have these neighborhoods. I live in Cranberry, we've got Silver Mine, we have South Norwalk, East Norwalk, West, all these different neighborhoods who, you'll see little events in these neighborhoods. But what these events do, the holiday extravaganza and the what was the name of the other one? Yeah, the Christmas holiday events last year, and now these Halloween events. It brings us together as a community. It brings all the neighborhoods together and I've spoken about those events before, the holiday events last year, about how incredible they were, but to bring the Halloween event into it's just, they're extraordinary and it makes us one. You know, it just brings us together and makes us one, and they're great.
Okay. Further discussion, Mr. Meek. You're muted.
Okay, no, I'm not muted. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just curious, do we have any return on investment metrics from these investments? I mean, 500 people at 75,000, $500 per head. Are we getting like increased foot traffic for the area businesses as a result of this? I would appreciate some kind of return on investment analysis from this. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So we have some not quantitative, but qualitative responses from the businesses at this point that the events that we've had in the past, the holiday extravaganza, as well as the arts festivals are, quote, their best days for business. But we don't have any metrics from them specifically. However, we do have some return on investment, as well as we're soliciting sponsorship for these events. So yes, we are spending a certain amount of money on them, but we are also soliciting donations and sponsorship opportunities, which will recoup some of the costs that we are making as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Further discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the item. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? One opposed, Mr. Meek. And item 4, that's pretty much the same thing. If we just
Let
want
me
to
just
move it.
read it and because
Yeah.
I voted for it, so just read it
Yeah.
into the record. Item 4, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into an agreement with the city of Norwalk for the use of 50 Washington Street and immediate surrounding grounds for their A Night Fair brunch event to be held on Sunday, October 29, 2023, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Setup time at 10 a.m. with tear down by 8 p.m.
Ms. Young moved the item. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Mr. Meek was opposed. Next item, I believe, is item 7B, 7A and B.
I think it's 5.
I thought 5 was on, no?
Yeah, 5 was on consent.
Was on?
Yes.
Okay.
5 was on, 6 was on.
Okay.
And now we're at
Sorry.
7A and 7B.
Thank you. 7A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into a contract with Langen for an amount not to exceed $103,250, project number 4289, for design and construction administration services for Meadow Street Park, account number noted. And should have LB 7B, authorize the Director of Recreation and Parks to issue change orders in an amount not to exceed $13,950, project number 4289, for design and construction administration services for Meadow Street Park, account numbers noted.
Okay, Ms. Young has moved the item. Did you want to talk on the item?
Yes, and so we have Mr. Stowers here again.
Okay.
Speak to that.
Yes. Of course, Meadow Street Park Playground is part of our continuing effort to renew our playgrounds and make them safer and bring them up to a quality. And this particular park, funded by some of the money on the Martin Luther King, the funding from DECD, we have selected Langdon to do this, to build this project. Langdon is also they're the contractor for the new development, housing development. This was a subject that someone brought up, one of the residents brought up, or speakers brought up earlier. You know, this is park property, and as Ms. Revolution was saying, we have to maintain our properties as well. And now it happens to be adjacent to housing, Norwalk housing as well, but it's park property and it has to be maintained. It's the park is really not in good shape at all. It's you know, we have grass growing everywhere. We've been trying to keep it down. The bricks need to be, the whole surface needs to be redone. we're looking at the basketball court and some of the foundation wall to do a complete kind of restructuring of that small park. It's a small park. Ken has been working with Adam there at the Housing Authority. So we're collaborating and we're working with them, but we have a responsibility for our property, even though I understand that, you know, the new housing is going to be kind of a mixed use market type housing project. They're going on all over the country. This is not the only place this is happening. They're all over the country. And in fact, in Seattle, we had 5 housing projects that went through the same renovation and same transition, where market rate housing was mixed with other housing. We didn't abandon our parks that were adjacent to them. We continue to maintain our parks. And in fact, we built a new park right across the street from one of our major housing developments, which is close to downtown Seattle, and it's a beautiful park. So I see this as the same kind of thing that's going on all over the country. Even though there may be some privatization going on next door, we still have to maintain our property. We can't rely on the private people to do our park. So we'll be cooperating with Adam, and Langdon is going to be blending in this park in terms of the amenities and the aesthetics with the housing. So it's going to look, it won't look different than the housing. It'll blend in with the housing. So this is just part of our ongoing upgrade of all our programs.
And Ms. Revolus?
I just wanted to say again, thank you, but in reading this and hearing the comments, I guess for me, I took it as exactly what you're saying. We're renovating this because it's a city, it's our park, we have to. The one thing I think that is overlooked is how these parks and how important they are just to the surrounding community regardless, right? Even if school, like a school park, when the school's out, those parks are really important to like the community around it. So I think I understand the argument against, you know, the renovation. I hate the displacement of people. We do want to beautify, but in particularly like with these parks or with the new school that's going to end up being down the street, or, you know, the children that are around here, the park, the Woodward Ave Park that's a little further, you go up and make a right, you know, go down Woodward Ave. These are actually very pivotal for the surrounding community. So I just want people to think of this, not only the housing complex that would be connected to it, but the families, the children that are within like a 50-mile bike ride radius that would use it, the basketball playing that happens there, just like Ryan Park. It's a big communal thing for the community throughout. So I just hope that people can see it in that manner and understand why we would look to want to take care of that park, even though there's going to be any type of construction around it or change around it.
Thank you, Mr. Meek.
Yeah, thank you. Look, no doubt that park needs some TLC. It's just curious to me why, with all the other design events going on between the school, maybe the firehouse, demolition of Meadow Gardens, why are we going to dump $100 grand on designing it? I mean, couldn't we do a lot of good with that kind of money if we just put repairs into it? What if we just resurface a lot, put up some new basketball courts, hoops rather? It just seems a lot of money for design work when there's so many other design considerations going on in the neighborhood. I would love to see the park refurbished, and can't we just make do with what's there and make it shinier and nicer?
It's going to be, it's for design and construction.
You have one page in the backup. It's a black and white picture of the court. It says design. So maybe that's my misunderstanding.
No, we probably weren't as clear as we could be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would hope for that kind of money, we could just get it cleaned up quick. you know, this, I understand the Meadow Gardens demolition and reconstruction is depending on Congress, so you know, we'll all be dead before we get them to act for us, right? Let's get it done. Thanks.
Well, we hope there will be some economies of scale there, and we will, even though you know, we're not asking them to do a great deal, I think we'll get some things out of them. I think it'll be a good partnership between Adam and us.
Could I ask, I mean, standard, you know, 5 to 10% on design, architectural stuff. I mean, out of that 103,000 plus contingency, I mean, you think we'll get $90,000 worth of real construction out of this estimate?
Yeah, most of these playgrounds, they already have a lot of designs, and a lot of it's canned designs. So I can't see it costing more than, you know, maybe 10-20%.
Okay.
So we should be 80,000-90,000. Yeah.
Ms. Ayers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to caution people. We not too long ago, both in committee and at this table, heard and saw extensive plans for different parks and different playgrounds in more affluent parts of our city. And people ate it up like it was Spaghetti Tuesday. And now you have a situation where people who are living there, these are living human beings who are living through construction areas, who are living through having to move from one unit to the other, and you're telling them that they're not worthy enough to send their child outside to play in a state-of-the-art playground that is owned by the city where they pay taxes. That is problematic. And we should be cautious how we see people and how we treat people. If you wouldn't send your child over there to play, why do you think it's okay to send someone else's child there to play? To quickly say we can just give them some new basketball nets or a quick blacktop. That wasn't sufficient when we were in your part of town. So why is it sufficient when we're in this part of town? And the fact that you keep saying Meadows Gardens and a housing development, that terminology in itself is degrading. And so I would caution people to be very particular how you treat people or how you look at people and how you estimate what they deserve. My grandmother would say, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Simply meaning, if it's good for your children to have a state-of-the-art playground in school, then it's also good for the residents of Meadows Garden children to have a state-of-the-art playground that is owned by the city of Norwalk. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Ms. Revolution, you still have your hand up from the last time, or did you want to?
Oh, I'm sorry. I put it down, but basically she said what I was trying to say nicer. So, okay. Yep.
Any further discussion or comment? Ms.
Mayor,
Ms. Young and then Ms. Josie Eichner.
Ken Hughes has his hand up.
Ken Hughes has his hand up.
Pardon me?
I just want to echo Ms. Ayers and actually, when I saw your hand up, I said to go speak because that was going to be what I said. And I think we've got to move past that. We've got to move past seeing South Norwalk as less than, period. And those kinds of comments feed into that. And so I know and I trust the leadership of Mr. Stowers and Ms. Valderas and the city that we're going to do the right thing now, because there's been a lot of divestment from South Norwalk for decades. And so we need to get this right, and we're going to get it right. And if it costs more than $100,000, it costs more than $100,000. And absolutely, what every other community has is what we need and should and deserve. We deserve no less. And so I think that's what we're getting ready to do. We're going to have a beautiful park. I think we're coordinating and working together with the Housing Authority, and we're going to get that done. And it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to be a park that we're going to be proud to bring our children to. That park has been a desert for decades. It's a concrete jungle. And how dare anybody say just put up something? Just something has been put up for decades, and we put up with enough. And so we need something better. So thank you.
Mr. Joseph Eichner.
I agree.
Just very briefly, and Mr. Stowers and Mr. Hughes, I'm sure you're aware of this, but I hope that this design and construction phase will take very seriously the risks of the traffic on Meadow Street, which has always concerned me about that park. The trucks go down there far too fast. And they make these wild 3-point turns into the businesses across the street from Meadow Gardens. And I really hope that the design phase will explicitly address safety and prevention so that kids can be freely running around in the park without with substantial protection from trucks on that street. Thank you.
Mr. Pereira and then Mr. Goldstein.
Yes, thank you. I've gone past that playground for years and years. And that is in dire shape and it really, really needs to be upgraded. I think $100,000 to me does not sound like a lot of money to upgrade that. If anything, it may even be on the low side.
Yeah, I made a error. Is for just construction and design and construction administration. So
Yeah.
there will be more money added to that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought, because that's a small amount of money for the need for the improvements that are needed for that particular playground. So I'm 100% behind that. And if we were ever to take this off, I would come back and give it a little bit more thought.
Well, it will be. It is. We have some money set aside.
Yeah.
I just read it wrong.
Mr. Goldstein?
Is needed. Okay, that's it.
Mr. Goldstein?
I really just want to commend and exclaim how important what my colleague Nicole Ayers just said. Because we talk about equity. We talk about what that value means. But then we have to walk the walk. And this is about walking the walk. It's about saying exactly what Nicole and Darlene said, which is that if you get a really nice park in Cranberry or near Capastra Beach or anything like that, you also get a state-of-the-art park in South Norwalk too. We believe in those values. Those are the values that guide us. And a lot of times when we talk about, there are a million technical details that we go through and have to go through when it comes to government and government process. And it's important to weigh all these things, but at the end of the day, it's our values that drive us. It's our values which separate us from people who believe something else from us. And so it's important to say that this is a commitment to equity and making sure that we have state-of-the-art facilities for everyone in the city to enjoy and to learn and to play and to enhance the quality of life in this community. So I will wholeheartedly be supporting this item, and I really don't understand anyone who doesn't.
I think Ken may have the details on the construction numbers. Ken, are you?
Hi, good evening. No, Robert, you corrected it. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood this was for design documents and construction documents as well as construction administration, but there wasn't any actual construction costs in the agenda item tonight. So it will be a bit higher than what we're looking at now, but you corrected that.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Evoluce, is your hand up? You don't know if you didn't take it.
Lastly, and thank you guys for just, because I was really trying to be touchy about how I said it, and I was trying to be nice. But with Nora, with what Nora Najewski-Eichner just said, Councilwoman, and particularly with driving, I'm just wondering to the Councilwoman Young, myself, that street though, as you continue to work there for that park, that street, we've always continued with the dust, with the concerns there. Is that also being discussed for this as well, for this construction of the park and renovating, take caring of it, than the whole Meadow Street concern that we continue to have? Or is that being in discussion for?
Yeah, that would be an added consideration. We talked to Langdon about, yes, in the design.
Okay.
In as much as we can in the design, we will try to mitigate some of that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? I believe that's unanimous.
What?
Next item on the agenda, Ms. Young, is item 7B, 10A and B, I believe.
Yeah, yes. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into a contract with Sport Tech Construction Corp. in an amount not to exceed $299,000 for the Rowayton School Tennis and Pickleball Court Reconstruction Project number 4299. Account number noted. And 10B, authorize the Director of Recreation and Parks to issue change orders with Sport Tech Construction Project number 4299 from account number noted in an amount not to exceed $29,000.
Ms. Young moves the item. Would you like to speak on it?
So, there you have it. Mr. Stowers is still here.
It's Mr. Stowers night. The Stowers hours.
This is a particularly meaningful project. It's going to be done at the Rowayton School tennis courts, which right now are almost unusable. They have cracks. There are spots that are really dangerous. And the kids are out there playing now, and it's kind of dangerous. You have the courts cracking, and they're just not playable for tennis, and they're not playable for pickleball. So what we've done is the mayor has and the Rexton Parks Committee has approved this to come forward for approval for us to enter into a contract with Sport Tech and for their construction of the Rowayton pickleball courts. What's significant about this is that we have a lot of pickleball players out there now trying to find a place to play pickleball. There's a lot of interest, a lot of facilities coming open around the region. But the next generation, the kids, are going to come forward, and they need to learn how to play too. So they've already started pickleball lessons for the kids at Rowayton Elementary School. So I think it's an all-around family kind of benefit, recreation benefit. So I'm just proud to be a part of this. And Ken and I are working hard to make this happen as quickly as possible. We have some constraints with the weather and securing asphalt before the weather gets really bad, but we're working on it and we're pushing it. And so I also talked to the attorney, city attorney's office, want them to push it and get the contract written so we can get this in play before the weather gets real bad. So we're making an effort there. But it's one of our, and Ken's gonna take the last item, 11. But it's one of our efforts to build more pickleball courts, and he'll be talking about some other courts in the next item that comes forward.
So I just wanted to thank the mayor and Mr. Stowers for pushing this forward. There is constituents that were waiting who wanted to bring this both for the community, but especially for the school. And as Mr. Stowers said, these courts are where the kids play during recreation, and it's not safe for them to play. It's just a hazard. And bringing pickleball, which is a lifetime sport, to teach this to young kids so that they'll have a sport where they can play their entire lives with just one other person or 2-3 other people is just terrific. And it's actually brought some fun. Well, the school is actually putting this as an early morning project for the kids who can come for early morning pickleball. One of the teachers has gotten certified to be able to teach pickleball to the kids, which is great. And then when these courts are built, we'll be able to use this during the recreation for the school children too. So it's a terrific project. We really appreciate it. And pickleball is the fastest growing sport, as Robert says. So it's a great opportunity for the kids to learn what is a lifetime sport. And we have to thank one of our community members, Mr. Seat, who really brought this to our attention as an opportunity. Yeah. And Jody Sattler, who's the commissioner, one of the 6 Saxon District commissioners who encouraged the teacher to get the certification for the kids. So, and there looks to be some grants. They're applying for a grant right now to get equipment and further rackets and things like that for the children. So it's a good opportunity for the kids. So thank you for helping us out with that.
Mr. Jilski Eichner.
Just very briefly, and this applies to this item as well as the other. I live near Woodward Avenue Court where the new pickleball courts went in last year, I guess, 2 years ago. And I have to say it is extraordinary the amount of use that they get. I would say that observationally, it appears to me to be the greatest usage probably any of our city parks get, like per capita. It's amazing. And so I'm really excited that we are expanding this game that clearly is bringing people joy to our kids and to other parts of the city. I'm excited to see it coming in the other parks as well. I'm just thrilled about the amount of traffic that it has brought into our parks and the number of people who are using them. And I appreciate the opportunity to sort of build this kind of lifetime continuum and path here, and to utilize a school resource that is currently going underutilized. Again, to our conversation earlier about maintaining, it is great to see things actually be maintained and used so that we haven't invested in resources that then sort of go to waste. So thank you for the efforts on this. And I personally not a pickleball player, but I have to say, like, joy, like really, I cannot believe how much fun people are having over in Woodward Avenue Park all day long, every day.
Ms. Revelous?
So my question to you is this: because it's such it's a fast growing sport, right? But it's also been out since like the 60s, right? Do you find it that it's a trend that is blowing up right now, or something truly that's going to be lifelong? Like, is this something that's just a current trend that will last longer than about 15 to 20 years?
Well, it's already been, let me see, I think I first encountered
Like
pickleball. Go ahead.
No, I was just in its popularity, because like in tennis, it's because what it is makes sense. I'm just wondering, like, I always get nervous with things that everyone's paying attention to at once, because then that dies down somewhere, right? It's not gonna be like, tennis is it's like tennis, it's a long-lived sport, but this is something that's gaining momentum all of a sudden, and just wondering how long that momentum stays with it. I'm happy for it. Just wondering, again, in maintaining what we keep and what we did, it's longevity. If there is a short term to it, it's easily transferable to something else, right? That can still work for the community in the way it is, that doesn't need much modifications, ... Right?
Yeah, you're right. The facilities are transferable to tennis or paddleball, or they're transferable. But let me tell you, I first encountered pickleball in 2004. As you may know, it started in Washington. I entered into one of our community centers as a recreation director, and I wondered what this thing was all about. I'm used to seeing basketball and saying, where are the basketball players? Why are they playing that game? And I thought it might be a trend too, but 20 years later, and
my daughter's born in 2004.
It's still going. I think it's here to stay.
Okay.
You have professional players that are forming leagues. It will probably eventually be in the Olympics. It's here to stay. It's here to stay.
Well, I'm sure it's like, in my 20 years, I'll be like, well, damn, I just questioned this.
Yeah.
It's all right. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Meek?
Yeah, thank you. Just to save everyone a little time, I thought item 10 was well fleshed out with row 8 in, but I did pull 11 off consent just because the packet materials don't add up to the amount we're going to authorize. So if staff could just touch on that, I'm sure it's just a pro forma matter of just getting the real numbers into the packet, but you're about $800,000 short in the backup on the packet. Thanks.
Okay, so and on 10A and 10B, any further comment or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Now, what are we doing with 11A? I'm sorry.
Ken Hughes is going to be he's going to be talking about 11.
You want to move?
11.
Let's let Ms. Young read it and move it forward, and then we'll have that discussion.
11A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into a contract with Hending Tennis LLC, project number 4305, tennis, pickleball, and basketball court renovations for amount not to exceed $708,994. Account numbers noted. 11B, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to issue an amendment to the contract with Hending Tennis LLC, tennis, pickleball, and basketball court renovations for additional request items in amount not to exceed $43,180. Account numbers noted. 11C, authorize the Director of Recreation and Parks to issue change orders to Hending Tennis LLC, project number 4305, tennis, pickleball, and basketball court renovations in an amount not to exceed $71,800. Account numbers noted.
So Mr. Meek, what was your comment on this about the money?
Yeah, the backup, I think the backup only details 11B. There's no detail on 11A or 11C. It looks like that's the main construction. I'm guessing that's the main construction cost for the courts themselves at Ludlow Fitch and the senior center. It's just not in the packet.
Yeah, Ken will explain.
One at a time. Mr. Meek, okay, so you're questioning the amount that's in the backup.
The details in the backup do not sum to the total of what we're voting on right here.
Okay, Mr. Sal.
Not even close.
Yeah, Ken will explain the differences.
Mr. Hughes?
But before Ken talks, I wanted to thank Ken as well in this whole master plan project. You know, I can't take all the credit. Ken and also the Rec and Park staff and Darlene and the Rec Committee. I thank all those folks, and I just wanted to really acknowledge Ken. Ken's been a real help to me, and just has been a wonderful partner as well. So I just wanted to say that before I sit down, because that Ken's going to take it home from here.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Thank you. Yes. So Mr. Meek is correct. What's in your packet references item 11B, which is the pickleball and court renovation amendment to the contract. The initial bid project, which is project number 4305, we actually had two public bids. One was Hindi Construction in the amount of 718,994, and the second was Sport Tech in the amount of 789,363. And I could have that sent along to all the council members tomorrow, the actual bid documents as they came to us. But this project actually deals with three sites. One is Ludlow Park. We have two existing tennis courts. We're going to keep the two courts, and we're going to overlay 8 pickleball courts. And then we have Fitch basketball. So there's 2 basketball courts over at Fitch Park, and those are going to be converted to post-tension concrete and kept as basketball courts. And then we're moving over to the senior center, where we have an existing tennis court. We're going to keep the existing tennis court, add 4 pickleball court overlays. We're going to renovate the basketball court and put an additional pickleball court onto the basketball court. So overall, this project here is going to gain the city 4, 8, 12, 13 additional pickleball courts, as well as 3 tennis courts. So I do need to make, there is one mistake I noticed on the agenda item 11B, instead of 43,180, should read 36,220.
Is that the only change on the dollar amounts?
Yes.
All right, so Ms. Young, would you read that with the new amount?
I had a question.
Hey, we'll move it forward, then we'll get that one next.
11B, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to issue an amendment to the contract with Hending Tennis LLC, tennis, pickleball, and basketball court renovations for additional requested items in amount not to exceed $36,220.
So I think we probably have to move that change.
Move that.
So all in favor of the change as read on 11B?
On readiness.
Opposed? Abstentions.
Understood.
So 11B has been changed. Now we're going to go back and Ms. Ayers, you have a question.
So I had an unreadiness, Mr. Mayor. My unreadiness is with 11A, 11B, and 11C. That's why I was trying to voice the unreadiness before you move for the correction. Because Mr. Ken Hughes stated that there is going to be more supporting documentation that would support the numbers. I was going to ask what was the protocol or the procedure to table that until we got all of the needed documentation, which I think is fair. Is this a time-sensitive item?
Well, if you make a motion to table, if that's what you want to do, then we have to vote on that first.
Okay, is this a time-sensitive item?
Mr. Hughes?
We are trying to start construction this fall. This was a publicly bid document through the purchasing department. So we went through all the procedures in terms of procurement. I can actually forward, once I'm off this meeting, I could forward you the bid documents tonight. They're in my mailbox. They just weren't attached to this agenda.
So my question is, we meet in 2 weeks. If we postpone it to 2 weeks, how is that going to affect, if at all?
We may, excuse me, I think I can answer that one. Unfortunately, we're getting very close to the construction season, to the end of it. And it's very hard to get the contractors to come and start a project. So another 2 weeks here means at least another 6 weeks until we have a contract, and that's gonna bring us very late in October. So if possible, I would like to ask this board to also take in consideration that we understand that there was a typo, but at least was for the value that we are asking is less than even the original one that we put it on. And was just like when they put the numbers, they look at the other bid. So I understand we have also all the procurement process that we follow. So was really just an error when we submit really the item to vote. But just to answer your question, yes, if you guys table, there is a chance that we're not going to be able to finalize the project this year. And we'll have only to do in this.
Sorry, I understand that, and everyone's human, so we make mistakes all the time. I just think that it is hard to make a decision. If you send us the item, if you send us the backup after we've already voted on it, you just send in us paper. It's hard to make a decision, particularly a financial decision, if the math is not mapping. I understand it was an error that happens often. I just think that it's not wise for us to blindly make a decision, because the council does have oversight. So we are supposed to be here to make sure that what is being said lines up. So that's my only.
And I understand. Can I just add one more line just for consideration? I just want to clarify what is the process after you guys approve. When this is approved, we have the obligation to send this to legal and purchasing, and also controller will check on the account. So purchasing will never gonna move forward and have this contract executed if the amount doesn't match. So usually we even have a little bit of extra money that the contract required because of that. That's why you guys always see the contingency. So we don't need to come back. So this time I understand that there was a mistake. I agree. There was an error from our end, but you were approving a capital account that will be used for this specific project. And then internally, you have the checkpoints to make sure that only the right amount of money and the correct bidder will be allowed to it.
I was done. I said that.
Mr. Huberman.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My hand went up a little later than others, but I just have a question for Vanessa real quick. Was this was already appropriated, correct, in the budget for this fiscal year?
That's correct.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Okay, Ms. Najilski-Eichner, then Mr. Meek.
Yeah, so I had a follow-up question, which is related to Mr. Hubelman. So I'm not seeing and I think the point Mr. Meek was trying to raise, I'm not seeing, it's not so much the error in the math on 1B as there is no materials at all for 1A, which is $700,000. So if that money has already been appropriated in the capital budget, that makes me feel somewhat better, but I am uncomfortable with voting on a $700,000 item with no materials at all. It's not just a matter of a small error in a $40,000. And so that's my concern, and I'm with Ms. Ayers and Mr. Meeks on that. I just don't feel comfortable with that. That's a lot of money to have no backup materials on.
Mr. Meek.
Yeah, I was just two things. I was just going to say, I second Mr. Stowers' thoughts on Mr. Hughes, and also I will vote yes on this in good faith based on the unit cost we just approved in item 10. This actually looks like a little bit of a discount from that, maybe a volume discount. I don't know, but I would still like to see the backup materials so we can tell everybody what's good coming down at the senior center, the beach, and Strawberry Hill. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment? So item 11A, B, and C has been moved with the correction to item 11B. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we have two abstentions, Ms. Ayers and Ms. Najilski-Eichner.
I wasn't an abstention. I was in opposition.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're in favor.
No, I'm in opposition. Thank you.
Opposition. Okay.
Thank
And
you.
Ms. Ayers, you abstained.
Yes.
Okay, so we have Ms. Ayers abstaining, Ms. Najilski-Eichner in opposition, and the rest in favor. Okay, Mr. Hubelman, the next item is item 7EB2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 7E2, sorry. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, or amendments as may be necessary with the Alliance for Community Empowerment Incorporated, located at 108 Main Street, Norwalk, Connecticut, and Person to Person Incorporated, located at 76 South Main Street, Norwalk, Connecticut, to administer the Community Services Department ARPA COVID-19 Rent Relief Program for Norwalk residents, with each organization receiving $250,000 for a total amount of $500,000 from account number noted. I'd like to move that item and then say a couple of things about it, if I may.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, on the call this evening, we have the Chief of Community Services, Lamont Daniels, and the Human Services Director, Anna Vivian Estrella, who will be able to answer your questions and speak to this item. While I have them here, I would like to personally thank them for the work that they've done on this particular item. I think this is a needed program, and I'm glad that we have the ARPA money to put forth for this program. This program is going to help folks who were impacted by COVID-19 and that who are in a position at an income level that sometimes, as we like to say, they fall through the cracks. They make enough money, they're employed, but they get behind on a rent, on a mortgage payment, and things get, they start to snowball for them. And this program is a program that will help those people in that particular income category. And I think it's important that we are able to utilize the ARPA funds to be able to do this now. And hopefully it's a program that we can find a way to continue in the future. That said, I'll turn it over to Chief Daniels and Ms. Estrella. And if you have any questions, please feel free.
Thank you, Chair Huberman, and good evening, council members. Good evening, Mayor. I'm going to yield the floor through you, Chair Huberman, to our Director of Human Services. But I just want again to say thank you to Mayor Rilling. As you know, with our American Rescue Plan Act funding through Mayor Rilling's administration, allocated $2 million to community services so that we can identify opportunities to support our residents who have certainly been impacted through COVID. So this is phase 2 of the program. Our goal and intention has always been to meet the needs of our residents and identify where those needs and gaps are, where we can, as a city, creatively use the funding that we have to support our residents. So I want to say thank you again. And through you, Chair, I'm going to defer to my colleague who works with me. I'm here for support, and I can definitely respond to any higher level administrative costs. But good evening and welcome, Anna Vivian Estrella, the city's Director of Human Services.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize that I'm staying downstairs so that I can keep my germs to myself. You can see I sound a little nasally, but I'm going to do my best to really explain this wonderful program that's going to help a lot of our residents here in Norwalk. We do have a small slide deck. I'm going to run through it really quickly, but I think the visuals are necessary in order to understand the scope and why this program is being proposed in the way that it's being proposed. So just give me 1 second. Does everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So the COVID-19 Relief Assistance Program, what we're targeting is the ALICE households, which stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. It's the growing number of single adults and families who earn less than the basic cost of living. And the way that it's developed, the methodology is that it's based off of a household survival budget, which in layman terms is what would be the minimum cost to live and work in our area. So this is to differentiate from the poverty standards that we hear about in a lot of other areas. It's those individuals that are working, they're employed, but it's just not enough to cover all of the costs of living, especially in Fairfield County. So 42% of our Norwalk population falls under this threshold. 47 of Norwalk renters are cost burden, which means they're spending 30% or more of their income on their housing situation. And housing is the second reason why residents come to the Community Resource Hub. And 45% of the residents that contacted the Fair Rent Department was due to rent increases and evictions. So you can see this is a very pervasive issue for our residents in Norwalk. And that comes to why this program is important and what we plan on doing, which is allocating those $500,000 to those 2 flagship agencies, Person to Person and Alliance, where they will be assessing the household's need along with their ability to stabilize. So these funds are meant to stabilize the household, and they would work with the household in order to make that assessment. And the payments would go directly to the landlord or the mortgage broker, depending on where it's going to be used. So the proposed uses are rental arrearages, utility costs or utility arrearages, mortgage payment assistance. And these are the thresholds. They have to be a Norwalk resident. They needed to have established their Norwalk residency before 2020. And there will be priority given to households in qualified census tracts. We are basing it off of the fair market rate. And so you can see in the table, 2 months of payments would be based off of the fair market rate. So if they were looking for assistance in a 2-bedroom, $2,563 times 2 would be the maximum amount they would be able to seek and be awarded. The households will not be able to exceed 75% of the area median income. A quick example is that a family of 4, the most they would be able to be making as far as income is $128,475. And then this is just an example of some of the required documents that they would have to provide: proof of identity, proof of status, current lease or rental payments, along with a landlord W-9, proof of income, and proof of financial hardship due to COVID pandemic. Any questions? I know I breezed through that super fast, but I also acknowledge that it's a late night and you did get the material in your packet of the full program. So I hope these highlights was enough to just really give you a good understanding of the program that we're hoping that will be approved today.
Do we have any comments or discussion? Ms. Ayers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do echo the remarks of my colleague, Mr. Human, but I also would like to take the opportunity to thank the Community Service Department in its entirety for hearing the call and the need of the residents of Norwalk. Many of us may be familiar with the terminology Alice population, and many of us may not be familiar with that terminology, but I remember a couple of months ago, quite a few of us went to the Alliance office in Norwalk, and they gave us a presentation. And in that presentation, they talked about the Alice population. I'm familiar with the Alice population because that's the area which I work, Human Services, but we need to understand that this is a growing population, and the Alice population are not people that we think of naturally when we're thinking of people who are struggling, but very often they are struggling. And the Alice population are people who do not normally qualify for subsidies or any other type of help. So I think the city of Norwalk should really give itself a round of applause and a hand, because what we're doing for this population of people who are normally overlooked is really something that cities across the nation should look at and try to replicate, because being an Alice population person is a daily struggle. You make money, you make good money, but that good money still does not afford you to have the life that you need to sustain yourself wherever you are living. So again, thank you to the Community Service Department. Thank you to not only Person to Person, but also to Alliance for partnering with us. And I do agree with Mr. Huberman in saying that I really hope that in the very near future that the city can find a way to stretch these fundings to help more Alice population families. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Further, Mr. Goldsey.
I again, feel like I could say this over and over again, and I'd still be right. I completely agree with everything my colleague Nicole Ayers just said.
2 for 2.
Hey. But I would note that where we are, you know, given that we are in Fairfield County, we are in the most expensive county in this state. We have the lowest residential and rental vacancy rate in the state of about 1.5%. This is the most important economic issue facing our city and facing the region as a whole, which is housing and the cost of housing, which really does just drive so much of what people can, how people can thrive and live with a quality of life where they can both afford their rent and also be able to afford their other expenses. As Nicole was saying, the Alice population is this incredibly vulnerable population that, as David said, really does fall through the cracks. And there's a lot of really great scholarship on this issue. But I would note that I think that what David said about the future is right. And while this program is specifically tied to people who have lost wages and income due to COVID-19, I think we need to recognize that a lot of rental assistance that's really necessary for people at that level has very little to do with COVID-19 and has to do with a whole lot of other factors. And so I think it's really important that as we move into the future, while knowing that the costs of housing will still increase and are increasing at a precipitous rate, that this is something that we need to be vigilant about. And so I'm so grateful to Lamont and Vivian and everyone who has pushed this forward. This is going to do a lot of good for a lot of people, but this is, if I remember correctly from the backup, I think it's covering only 2 months of payment per family. So there is more work to do here. So I hope we all can work together to see if we can give our residents an opportunity to get themselves both on their feet and an ability to get out of the Alice population for the future. So I will be supporting this measure, and hopefully we can work to build upon this.
Ms. Revolus.
I agree with my colleagues, but there's a saying that you get used to out here that you hear a lot. Like you're like, I make too much, but I don't make enough. And that's hearing my colleagues. The Alice community, it was always just a middle class, you know what I mean? And I love that we're doing certain things here. I love that this is out, and in particularly saying that, you know, Norwalk is taking this initiative to look at this community, right? Because we can actually try to just not say, okay, this is what's happening everywhere, but start doing things and changing things here that can change everybody else everywhere, right? Like, and it could start with, you know, the different ways we take care of all of our community in Norwalk, which, you know, we really try to do here, but start making things that like stop following the norms in a sense. Let's make and create and show new norms that cradle our community in a different sense. Maybe start questioning how far we go with, you know, what we would charge our community and what's enough. Like, where does it get too much when it comes to the rent? Where does it get too much and out of control? So that being said, I love the fact that there's an initiative that, you know, Norwalk could say, hey, we did this, we're starting here, look. It's another way to say why we're one of the top. You know, I appreciate being here. I appreciate you guys doing that. And I just wanted to say that, like, we can just make new ways to help our community.
Further comment or discussion? Ms. Young.
So I don't think that rental assistance is new in the city. I think that we've been doing that for a while through the redevelopment agency.
Oh, true. That's like,
And so,
yeah,
but the money wasn't as significant as what is being done here with the ARPA money. And I have to say that I think this is probably one of the best ways to spend those dollars, is people need a place to sleep, something to eat, and they need to feel safe. I mean, we're covering the basic needs, and I think it's very important that we continue to look for ways to fund this, because it's not going away, ever. People are always going to need some sort of assistance with housing. And so I love this as a start. $500,000 is great, but clearly we know that there's more that's needed, and we just have to keep looking forward with this. But I think this is the beginning of that path. And I appreciate that Lamond and Anna Vivian had the vision enough to think about doing this particular piece with the ARPA dollars for this route. And so I'm sure it's going to be a success, but we know that the need is great. And so we will continue to do what we need to do in that department. So kudos to everybody, to the committee, everybody.
Can I just clarify? That's what I'm not saying that we haven't. That's what I mean by this particular round, because I know we've been here, we've done to our people who are, you know, disabled lower, or but that middle class that says, you know, I make too much, but not enough. This right here is what I'm saying. Let's make some new ways that show throughout. We're looking at our communities different. And I completely agree. Kudos to everyone. I just don't want to underestimate that this is the first program to do with assistance at all. No, just this particular showcase right here to pay attention to the onion that is Norwalk, the layers that is a community. That's the aspect that I'm saying.
Thank you. Further discussion or comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. I believe
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
I believe that's the last item to come before the
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Opposed.
We are adjourned. We are adjourned at 9:53. I'm not even going to ask who's opposed.
Thank you again. Have a great evening.
I know the answer to that.
Good night, all.
Thank you again, everyone. Thank you
Good night,
so
all.
much.